Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest mega review, where we don't just review the movie itself, but everything that went into making the movie what it was. Today we're going to talk about Spider-Man 2, a movie that is showered with praise and admiration from all corners of the internet for being one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. Yeah, not exactly.
You done f***ed up now!
Hold on. Let me explain. There's certainly a lot to like about Spider-Man 2, and it certainly was a successful movie, and a solid movie, and a well-written movie, and a good movie, no doubt about it. I'm just saying that with all this overwhelming praise that it gets, there seems to be a lot of things that don't get talked about in the movie, which really aren't that good. Let's face it, it's pretty obvious, it's very silly, but it struck me in going back and rewatching this that here they do a lot of things that they later repeat in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 that I ended up hating so much. But for some reason in this movie, it doesn't seem to matter that much, it doesn't seem to bother me that much. And I think that's because the main things, the core of the movie, they get right, which is their protagonist and their antagonist. You feel the struggle of our hero while at the same time understanding where the villain is coming from. And J. Jonah Jameson is hilarious. Those are like the main things. So the little details around that of like Doc Ock's plans making absolutely no sense, the flip-flopping that the movie does about what kind of message it's trying to put forward, and a whole bunch of irrelevant characters and subplots that don't need to be there at all. None of those things matter because the core issues, the heart of the characters, the motivation of the characters, the main characters, that's what they got right and that's what matters. So let's get into it.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can.
If you look closely at Peter's apartment, you can actually see the picture that he took of Mary Jane just before he was bitten of the radioactive spider. This is supposed to represent the last moment where he was just Peter Parker, before his life was radically changed forever. At one point, Tobey Maguire was going to be replaced by Jake Gyllenhaal because Tobey Maguire suffered a crippling back injury, which made it almost impossible for him to do not only any of the Spider-Man stuff, but just walking around, just doing normal stuff was very difficult, very painful for him.
My back! Oh, my back!
And Jake Gyllenhaal was in early preparation for doing the movie, but Maguire finally managed to push through and make it. Alfred Molina, who plays Dr. Octopus, he actually named the 4 mechanical tentacles: Larry, Harry, Flo, and Mo. Flo being the top right tentacle because that was operated by a female puppeteer, and that tentacle was a little bit more motherly. It would remove his glasses, light his cigars for him, get him sips of drinks, things like that. The alleyway where Peter dumps his Spider-Man suit when he quits is supposed to be the same one as where he kissed MJ with that upside down kiss in the first movie. The phone number on Peter's helmet for Joe's Pizzeria is actually a real New York pizza place, so yeah, give them a call, see if they're still around.
I think I deserve a little something for this.
Give you $50.
I could get more than that on eBay.
All right, 100. Miss Brandt, give this man his money and throw in a bar of soap.
It turns out that 4 Spider-Man costumes were actually stolen from the set of this movie and were eventually recovered after a long investigation. And while they were not sold on eBay, it turns out that being sold as memorabilia, they would have been worth between $25,000 and $50,000 each. So yeah, that guy really got scammed by J. Jonah Jameson. There are 2 other villains from the comics included in this, but they don't become villains in this movie or even in the next one, which is John Jameson, MJ's fiance, who is Man-Wolf in the comics, and Dr. Kirk Connors, who is the Lizard. Both of them are like a Jekyll and Hyde type tragic villains, just like all the other villains in these movies, and they transform against their will into these vicious animal beasts. But of course, these never got used. In one scene where Peter asks Mary if she's still in the village, Kirsten Dunst actually did drop out of having a part in The Village to be in this movie. So it's a bit of an in-joke there. In an early version of the screenplay, Dr. Octopus was going to be a bit younger and become infatuated with Mary Jane, but they scrapped it because they thought we don't need yet another love triangle going on. We already had one in the last movie, sort of comes up again in the next. Don't need it here as well. Probably a good call. But it was also going to include a subplot of Harry putting out a bounty on Spider-Man's head for anyone to collect, which I think they probably should have included. Sam Raimi repeating his choices from the last movie of mirroring a lot of stuff from the original Christopher Reeve Superman does the same thing here. He mirrors Superman 2 with the story. In that Lex Luthor, who Superman defeated in the previous film, returns to make an alliance with the new villain General Zod. Superman gives up his powers so that he can pursue a relationship with Lois Lane. Then he has to get his powers back to fight General Zod so he can save Lois Lane, during which Lois Lane discovers Superman's secret identity. Really original, Sam Raimi. But there's no memory erasing kiss thing at the end of Spider-Man 2 though. So the plot of Spider-Man 2 revolves mostly around Peter Parker trying to balance out his duty to be Spider-Man with his desire to just live a normal life as Peter Parker. Specifically that he can't be Spider-Man and be with Mary Jane at the same time. It's just not possible. Which, as we know, leads to this back and forth, will they, won't they, which is nauseating to watch. Because didn't he already make the decision in the last movie that he's not going to pursue a relationship with her because it's not safe? But now he's like reading poetry to try to get her back and all this. Come on, man. I mean, I get that they're setting up this issue that in order to be Spider-Man takes sacrifice. He has to sacrifice what he wants to be Spider-Man, which he does eventually do in the movie. But in the end, it turns out that he can have both at the same time. Okay, but then why did you set it up that he needs to make a sacrifice to be Spider-Man if he obviously doesn't? Maybe it's because he has made that sacrifice and now she's making a sacrifice because she knows being with him, he's not going to be able to be around all the time, he's going to be slinging off all the time. So she's making the sacrifice for them to be together here? Okay, but what's the lesson from that? That other people should bend towards what you want? Isn't that kind of the exact opposite of you sacrificing something to be a hero? This is someone else sacrificing something. See what I mean? It's just confused about what message it's trying to put forward. And they link with this him losing a lot of his powers, but is that really even necessary to have? And I don't think it even really makes scientific sense that he would start losing his powers because he's emotionally upset. If perhaps he was losing like his Spidey sense because of this, that might make sense because it's more mental, psychological. It just seems unnecessary. And seeing a lot of Peter Parker's struggles, financial struggles as well, yes, it makes it all more relatable for him, but really it's completely unnecessary. I mean, if money's the problem and J. Jonah Jameson is not paying him enough for the photos, he's the only one who can get photos of Spider-Man. So just demand more money or else you'll take the photos to someone else.
I'll pay you the usual rate.
If you want the shots, I'll take the staff job. Double the money.
You get fired from your pizza job? Well, Harry Osborn offered you a job in the last movie, just go get a higher paying job from him. Do you want to be proud or you want to pay the bills? Maybe he could continue the idea of what he did in the last movie of wrestling for money. Maybe he could be a boxer, but do it legit this time through a proper organization that's not going to cheat you out of the money. As long as you don't show off with your powers too much, maybe pretend to get knocked out every now and then, no one will catch on. Aunt May's going to get foreclosed on by the bank? Why not web swing your way into the office of a TV executive and offer to do a 1-hour interview with anyone there as Spider-Man in exchange for $1 million? Superman did interviews, why can't you? You could buy your Aunt May a whole new house with that. Or what about gambling? Does your Spidey sense work if you're about to play a bad hand in poker? If so, go to the casino, you'll make a lot of money. There's a million different things you can do to make money, Peter Parker. But look, I'm being way too negative, way too harsh on this movie. I don't want to get too many hate comments, but look, there's definitely a lot of good stuff in this movie, no doubt about it. Both big things and small things. A few of the small things I like is when he's webbing his way across the city and then his webbings give out. The music kind of fakes you out. It has that soaring music sort of building and building, and then all of a sudden it just cuts.
Oh no! No! Ah!
The moment where he's like talking to Uncle Ben's ghost or whatever and he says he doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore. Heartbreaking moment. The train chase is truly amazing, absolutely no doubt about it. And I like that whole New York, yeah, we rally behind Spider-Man kind of thing that they do. Dr. Octopus, played wonderfully by Alfred Molina, and you do sympathize with his character, even though they kind of took the Lizard's backstory and gave it to Dr. Octopus. Maybe that's why they didn't do the Lizard in the next movie. But still, it works. And looking into the way they actually built the mechanical arms for him and the way they puppet them, very impressive stuff. But this is also where another problem that is a common occurrence in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies comes in, which is this is yet another villain with a split personality. Do we really need another one? And you know, I'm not sure that it even makes sense. if his mind snaps after the experiment goes wrong and his wife is killed, then wouldn't he want to kill the people who he blamed for his wife's death? Namely Spider-Man and Harry Osborn? I mean, they set up his wife and the relationship with his wife, but after she does, it doesn't really affect him that much later on. He only has one scene grieving her, and then he's like, well, gotta get back to work building my son thingy. Does he love that more than he loves his old wife, or is it the tentacles? And if it is the tentacles, and the tentacles are controlling him and they want to build this thing because that's their purpose, then at the end, shouldn't Spider-Man bring up his dead wife as a way to reconnect with his humanity again, to sort of bring him back and to sort of have him regain control of himself again? That would pay off having the wife story in there. But instead, Spider-Man appeals to his virtues as a scientist, which is kind of what got him into this whole problem in the first place. Be like, hey, Dr. Octopus, you're a great scientist. And he's like, yeah, that's why I'm building the thing again. I don't see how that would help turn him around. And at the end, he just overpowers the tentacles just through sheer willpower. Well, okay, but why didn't he do that earlier when he was throwing old ladies around? Wouldn't that have snapped him out of it a bit more? And is there any real reason why he has to actually be wearing the arms, other than he needs to be like that way in the comics? I mean, even in the comics, he didn't originally wear them.
And I had him working on radioactive material, and that can be very dangerous. So there was a big glass shield, and he would work outside with little tentacles, and they would operate the radioactive material.
But as I said, this is all just nitpicking. I just want to bring it up because a lot of other people don't seem to want to bring this stuff up. But yes, it's a wonderful movie. It's very enjoyable, and the things that work about it totally outweigh the things that don't work about it. The main stuff, the heart of the movie, is done right, and that's what Sam Raimi is good at. So guys, for next week, as you know, I'm going to be switching it up between the Aliens franchise and Spider-Man franchise. So I could either do a mega review of Alien next week, or I could begin work on my Batman vs Superman mega review. There's so much to that I want to make that truly a mega review. Like my reviews of Man of Steel and Prometheus that were massive videos, I think we'd need to make a massive one of Batman v Superman to bring it all in. But if you'd like me to start work on that, it might be like 2 weeks before it's done instead of just 1 week. So just bear that in mind when you're voting. And once again, if you want to help the channel out, share this video on your Facebook, share it on your Twitter, share it on your social medias to your friends. Because if you like this stuff, good chance your friends probably like this stuff as well. And that would really help with the channel. Okay, back to it. So for me, watching Spider-Man 2 is a little bit like remembering an old internet meme. It was massive at the time, and we were all having a great time with it, but looking back at it now, it seems a little silly and dumb, and you kind of wonder why we made such a big deal out of it at the time. But you can't judge this movie from the present day. You have to judge it in the time that it was released, and then it was an absolute bullseye smash hit. It knew exactly what it was, and when it was, unlike certain other Spider-Man movies, and it knew what it could get away with, and took advantage of that. So I don't hate this movie despite all of my endless nitpicking. And as with a lot of Sam Raimi movies, if you get into the spirit of things, that's kind of all that matters. So I hope you enjoyed this, guys. If you want to check out more mega reviews from me, click on any of the cards you see right here. And until next time, I will see you guys in the comments.